Live, Duncan, here we are. So how is New York? How is Biden? I mean, after Trump, that every 2 seconds we were hearing about Trump here in Europe, in UK, and now Biden, no one hear about Biden, like zero. So is it okay? Is it okay?
Yeah, I think you described it perfectly. The same thing was even more true in the U.S., where politics was all we heard about for 4 years, and now it's just like totally on the back burner. And yeah, it's kind of nice. It gives people time to explore other interests like NFTs and
Yeah.
crypto.
Yeah, like peace and relax. And what about last time I think I interviewed Michael Saylor, the Biden executive order was just announced. But was it good? Is this something good? Do you see it good for the industry?
I think it turned out to be pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were pretty afraid when the executive order was announced, but yeah, I think it turned out to be mostly a positive for crypto regulation. And yeah, so I don't know. I think the U.S. is I live in New York, where the mayor Eric Adams is super crypto forward, and I also spent time in Miami, where the mayor there is also obsessed with crypto, and they even launched their own Miami coin. So I think the
Yeah.
politicians in the U.S. are honestly really excited about this new technology, and they want to. The U.S. has so many great tech companies in Web 2. I think people they want to make sure the U.S. has great web tech companies in Web 3 as well. So people are supportive overall.
That's great. That's great. I have the feeling, but I don't know if it's a bias because I'm into the industry and I'm passionate about everything happening, and I only read news about, I'm in the rabbit hole of NFT and this kind of stuff. But my feeling is that the negative perception that I saw just 6 months ago about NFTs, I remember when I launched my first NFT on Italian market, all the comments were, you are a scammer, that's a fraud, that's a Ponzi scheme, how dare you, you lost your reputation. I get the worst of the worst. And now after 6 months, I would say it's pretty good. I mean, people start to understand. I read the news today that the Vatican is launching its own NFT. Maybe it's on Nifty Gateway, I don't know. And when the Vatican launches an NFT, you think, wow, this starts to be kind of mainstream. What's your perception?
I think you're totally right. I think it's just a natural human instinct to sort of fear and even hate new technology. I mean, there's this old article I love from 1907, which is basically the whole point of the article is like bicycles are evil and we can't let them take over our cities because like they're going to kill us all. And I'm like, I think about that article whenever I see a backlash to a new technology, because I mean, come on, how could you get more harmless than a bicycle? That's like the coolest new technology ever, that gets rid of cars, makes it easier to get places, like helps people exercise. And yet even then people were terrified when the bicycle first came out. So yeah, I think it's normal, and I think you're right. I think we're moving past that initial stage of fear and skepticism with NFTs, and people are just starting to realize that an NFT is just an invention. It's just a tool. Some people are going to use it in a bad way. Some people are going to use it in a great way.
Yeah, definitely. When we talk about NFT marketplaces, I have obviously several questions about Nifty, but I give you this feedback. I asked my community. I said, look, I'm gonna have a chat with the Nifty Gateway founder, and what would you ask? And I tried to compare it when I was collecting questions about OpenSea. And it's the same feeling that I go from the difference that I see between iPhone and Android. So Nifty Gateway feels like, oh, iPhone, oh my gosh, that's super premium, super quality. And OpenSea is like, scams and very, dodgy. Everyone can be there. Yeah, everyone is OpenSea. Is this something that it just happened like that? Is something that you built into the product? Why do you think it's like? Oh, maybe it's wrong. It's just my perception.
No, I think I think it's honestly, we made a lot of really intentional decisions when we were building the marketplace, and that's why it ended up the way it is. And OpenSea made different decisions. So it OpenSea is totally open as a marketplace. Anyone could go create an NFT. They could go create a fake NFT and try and convince someone it was real and sell it. On Nifty Gateway, you have to be verified and you have to be approved by us in order to create an NFT. So there are no scams and there are no fake NFTs. And so, yeah, I think maybe the App Store is the right comparison. If Apple just let any app on the App Store, then people would download scam apps as well. They would probably download an app that hacked all their information and sent it to a foreign
Yeah.
government or something like that. But Apple is really, they spend a lot of time and they have a huge team of people who all they do is review apps to make sure they're okay. That's kind of the way that Nifty Gateway is also. It requires a lot more energy and commitment, but yeah, I think it makes a safer shopping experience for the end user. And I think a lot of, especially the people who are not, uh, you know, really, really experienced with crypto technologies, the people who are just sort of dipping their toe and learning NFTs for the first time, I think it really makes a difference with those sorts of people. Because we don't, honestly, I mean, if someone gets scammed and they just don't want to come back, they just give up on the whole NFT
Definitely.
concept. Yeah.
Definitely. For people who are not familiar, like how many requests, if it's a public data, do you receive like on a daily, monthly base to be on Nifty? How big is what's the size of the team that has to select and curate? Because it's a big effort. It's much easier to say, look, this is a marketplace, do it yourself, and good luck with that.
Totally. The team who selects is about 12 people now.
Right.
As far as applications, I think we get around 100 per day. I haven't checked the exact number, but it's certainly a lot of applications. And yeah, it's very difficult for us to deal with, and we spend a lot of time and energy sorting through trying to find the best applications and curate the best content. Yeah, so you're right. It is a big effort. That team works incredibly hard, but ultimately we think it's the right decision, and it really makes a Nifty Gateway a safe experience and an easy way to get started collecting NFTs.
Are you also, Duncan, proactive? So are you chasing also for some kind of project or artist or company, celebrities that say, look, we would love to have you on Nifty, so you're not only passive and waiting and selecting?
Absolutely, yeah, we are. When we see something that we think could be an excellent NFT, or when we have a cool idea for an NFT drop, we totally go after it. And we try and pitch the creator on it. And I mean, really, we think we kind of view it as our job to help push the NFT medium forward and to help people do new things with NFTs that get more people into the space, that get people excited. And that really showcase the power of the technology. So coming up with cool creative projects, that's one of our favorite things to do. And yeah, we absolutely push forward on.
Got it.
Mhm.
I'm not artistic at all, Duncan. I don't know if you are. Are you an artist, like a little bit, or
No, not even a
no?
little bit. Whenever I try it, it just turns out it doesn't turn out very well. So I never want to show anyone, but maybe one day.
Great. So whatever is your no, my no is minus 3,000. I'm horrible with art.
It's
But
hard. It's so hard.
it's really hard. I've never been creative or artistic in any way, but I'm an entrepreneur, and many entrepreneurs out there or freelance, they say, or companies, they say, well, we want to use NFTs, because as you said, it's just a technology, and we want to use smart contracts to do several stuff. So there is this big trend of utility NFTs, a la VFriends or VCon, which is a ticket, or the NFT that I use for my community. They are all utility NFT. You buy the NFT, you get my book or stuff like that. And then you have, I've been speaking with Shopify, and they predict this big token-gated commerce trend. So e-commerce filtered by your token based on your NFTs. We give you different access. Where is Nifty in this scenario? Are you only like focus on art, or 90% on art, or open to anything else? How do you see?
Well, really, at Nifty, we like to talk about it in sort of multiple different different ways. So, the curated drops that we do where we work directly with artists, those are mostly focused with art
Yeah.
right now. But then we also have a secondary marketplace where people can buy and sell NFTs of all different types. That content is still vetted. We still make sure it's authentic and legitimate so that people don't buy scams. But on the secondary market, yeah, people can buy all sorts of different NFTs from all sorts of different creators. And I mean, we've been in NFTs long enough to see that there are all these different use cases for NFTs. I think we've really only scratched the surface. And I always like to remind, when I first got started in NFTs, metaverse land was the big category. That was what everybody was buying and
Right.
selling. Then it became art, and now I think PFPs have sort of become the biggest category. So everyone's always asking, like, what's next? What's the next category? I don't think anyone really knows, but we definitely, yeah, the curated drops that we do really are sort of focused on art, but we have a big secondary marketplace where people can buy and sell anything else. And it's really, really easy for people to get started collecting NFTs that have never, the nice part about the secondary marketplace is you don't have to have a crypto wallet to use it. You don't have to have cryptocurrency. You can just sign up with an email password and a credit card and buy NFTs.
Interesting. Talking about metaverse land, how do you comment the $300 million plus Yuga Labs the sales yesterday? Just but when you see those numbers after a few years, do you just think, all right, another $300 million drop has happened? I mean, I'm impressed. I mean, $300 million in a weekend is not so
Oh,
easy.
totally. Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. It's true. I think Yuga has basically a history of delivering value, and if you minted a Bored Ape for 0.08 ETH, now it's worth, like, I don't know, 150 ETH or something like that. And then not only that, but you also got the airdrop of the Bored Ape Kennel Club, the Mutant Ape, the Ape token. So when you have a history of delivering value like that, people are absolutely going to show up huge for your next primary market sale. I mean, we see that same dynamic all the time in NFTs. The same thing goes for artists. I mean, we had last year we did a $92 million sale of an artwork with Pac. 29,000 people participated, and the reason was, earlier that year we had a sale that the total sold was 17 million, but everything from that first sale was way up on the secondary market. Excuse me. And when you see that sort of, when collectors see that sort of price appreciation, then yeah, they immediately show up to the next primary market sale. That's just a pattern in all of NFTs. So yeah, I think it was very impressive, without a doubt. I
Another
think
one
it was.
impressive. Also Moonbirds was very impressive by Kevin Rose. I mean, another interesting project with a lot of utilities and a technology idea, classic startup approach, I would say.
Totally. Yeah, I do wish Yuga had thought through the contract a little bit more, though.
Right.
It
What
was,
do you mean?
oh well, the way the land sale basically clogged the Ethereum network for
Oh,
2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. And $100 million, I think, in Ether fees or something like crazy.
Yeah, it was 175 million just gone. It disappeared, and I think it was unfortunately, I think they could have come up with a mechanism to prevent it. So it's really too bad to see something like that.
Do you think that this gas fee situation gonna be solved sooner or later? I mean, of course, gonna be solved sooner or later, and hopefully with the merge sooner or later. I mean, it should be better. Or you think that also for Nifty, different blockchains? What's your take on that?
I think the way that people use the blockchains are going to evolve. I don't think there will ever be a scenario where you can just clog a fee bearing blockchain like Ethereum and expect something like that not to happen. I mean, the way Ethereum and other blockchains are designed is that people have to pay fees to participate. That the reason that they have to pay fees to participate is to prevent the blockchain from being spammed. And if you don't have a fee market, you end up with other issues. I mean, we really, right as that land sale issue was happening, we saw something happening on Solana where there was an NFT drop. The way that you spam an NFT drop on Solana is not by having a higher gas price, it's by just calling more transactions, because transactions are essentially free. So you had these bots who, they weren't spamming really high gas prices. They were spamming millions and millions of transactions, and it crashed the whole Solana network. The Solana network was offline for 7 hours.
Wow. Sort of
So
DDoS on Solana. Sort
right,
of.
exactly. But you can never DDoS Ethereum. It would basically be prohibitively expensive to DDoS Ethereum. So I think whenever you have a fee, there's real inherent challenges here, because these blockchains have to be up and running 24/7, 365. They can never go down. So I think what will evolve is the way that people use the blockchain. I mean, for example, when we did the $92 million sale with POC, that caused no gas war. I think in total it costs around $200,000 in gas. And the reason that it worked so well is because Nifty Gateway is essentially this abstraction layer that sits in between the customer and the blockchain. We handle all of the purchases, and then once everyone has paid for what they bought and said, "Here's where I want my NFT delivered to," then the minting happens later. So I think basically we'll see more systems like that develop. I mean, Yuga could have used an abstraction layer. They could have done a mint pass or a raffle to decide who would be eligible to mint the land. There are a lot of different ways that they could have done this sale that would not have resulted in
Interesting.
yeah. So I think that's what will happen, is people will eventually realize, hey, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do mints this way because it'll ruin the blockchain. And that's, you see the same thing happening in web technology too, where people, instead of altering the fundamental technologies, which have these limitations that can't be changed, people just add abstraction layers and they add content delivery networks, and that makes the whole thing faster. To the user, it appears like everything is working well. That's the way that I think things will develop in blockchain.
Yeah, interesting. Also because I read their tweet where basically they said, "Oh, but we'll have to develop our own blockchain," but maybe they could have, as you said, approached the problem in a different way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of silly. I think this is, a lot of people were accusing them of essentially doing this on purpose so that they would have an excuse to launch their own blockchain. I'm not that conspiratorially minded. I personally don't think that that is the case, but it is a little silly to say, "Oh wow, this we need to launch our own blockchain," when there were so many things they could have done to make this sale go smoothly on Ethereum. It's like, maybe finish what you start first before deciding to launch another blockchain. And it's kind of hilarious because this is exactly what Dapper Labs did in 2017 when CryptoKitties, CryptoKitties exploded and they decided to launch their own blockchain. I think it's been a more difficult road than they anticipate. And Flow is, it has a lot of traction with Dapper Labs projects, but it hasn't really gotten usage outside of that.
Yeah, got it.
Excuse me.
Well, what did you study, Duncan? I was curious about it. Do you have like a mathematical mind, a philosophical mind? What did you study?
I studied computer science, actually.
Okay.
So just a boring old engineering mind. Griffith, my brother and co-founder, studied mathematics, but neither one of us studied philosophy.
Okay, interesting. I've been studying law, and I was always thinking, gosh, for an entrepreneur, I would have loved to be more, mathematical and that kind of approach. I think, I don't know, when you need to calculate cost of acquisition, lifetime value, and these kind of things, law doesn't really help. So I always think that it's a good asset to have.
Okay, but it helps in other ways.
Yeah.
You can figure out, if someone on your legal team is telling you we can't launch this product, you can be like, no, we can launch it this way. You can, yeah, it's helpful in other ways.
That's a good point. You launched Nifty Gateway. I mean, not long time ago. In my mind, you are here since 1995, but actually you are here since, I don't know, 3 years ago. I don't know when was the official launch.
Yeah, it was the official launch was in 2018. We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary, actually.
Wow.
Of the official launch.
Crazy.
So it does feel like multiple lifetimes in NFTs.
It really it does, and you got basically an exit very quickly, right? So it was 6 months in or something like that.
Correct. Yes.
How did it play out? Because when I sold my startups, I mean, it never ended well, actually, if I think, because then you can't really do whatever you want to do, or, it doesn't work. And then you just leave and bye-bye. How did it work for you? Because it looks like it's working pretty well.
Yeah. I guess we got lucky, I suppose. Basically, we met the Winklevoss twins at the end of we did a startup accelerator called Boost VC. And, Nifty Gateway was founded by me and my identical twin brother. So almost kind of as like a meme, really. The head of our accelerator was like, "You guys are twins building in crypto. You need to meet the Winklevoss twins, who are also twins building in crypto." And we basically said, "Okay." I mean, that would be great. The Winklevoss twins were. This was in 2019, so yeah, it was 7 months after we launched the company. The Winklevoss twins were into NFTs at this time. They were ahead of the curve on NFTs, and they basically had a thesis that NFTs would develop and grow a lot. So, they wanted to diversify Gemini into the NFT business. And then when we met them, I think we really just clicked. And
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So we got acquired about 7 months after we started the company. The great part about it was we had raised very little money. So Griffin and I owned basically, almost all of the equity. And we were really between the acquisition and like raising a seed round. And we pretty, we knew that Gemini would give us stuff that we wouldn't have access to with the seed round, from a technology perspective and a BD perspective. So, and we were also, I think we I guess we had underestimated the difficulty of starting a company. Um, we when we first launched the company, we basically thought, like, oh, this will be great. We can go out and raise money, but raising money was harder than we thought. We launched a product which got some traction, but it was harder to earn revenue than we thought. It was really hard to hire people. Basically, everything about starting a company is difficult.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and the Winklevoss twins were very, they basically told us, come here and build this company the way that you see fit, and we'll support you. We were a bit skeptical. I mean, we thought, okay, this is what everyone says. We knew there was a chance that they were lying, but they weren't lying at all, and that's exactly what happened. So I think in that sense, we got lucky. Every acquisition is really a gamble or a risk to some degree. But in our case, it really turned out well, and it's been fantastic. I mean, we were just 2 people when the company got acquired. We're now 70 people. You know, we've really been able to like grow and scale Nifty Gateway in a way that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And yeah, we're coming up on next month. That'll be the 3-year anniversary of the acquisition. So
That's great. And that's great to find people who buy your company but let you work and let you do what you do best, and they do not interfere, basically, because it helps a lot. How did you find yourself with all of the startup activities? I was chatting. Who was the last one? Vitalik's dad, Dimitri, Dima Buterin. And we were chatting, and it was very funny because he sold his company, and he said that he's semi-retired. And I say, man, it's incredible how hard it is to run a company. And if you know yourself, there are things that you are very bad at. For instance, I am very bad at running the day by day. It's not me. I can get the idea and boom, we go, the vision, but don't let me run the company or I will destroy it, So I have to go out as soon as possible to get, a CEO and everything. What are the activities that you think you do best and the ones that you do worst in a company?
That's a great question. I think my strength really comes from being a technical founder and understanding the product. Not in the sense of like, I don't do any hands-on programming anymore, but the fact that I was a technical founder and wrote all the early code for Nifty Gateway means that I really have a strong understanding of how the product works. I have a strong understanding of how our product is different than everyone else's in the market, and like what strengths we can develop in order to grow. Um, and then, I think another thing that I'm good at is really just like knowing and understanding the NFT space. When I got into NFTs, um, basically my goal was to learn as much about them as possible, and that was kind of a hilarious mission because there was NFTs were a year old at that point, and there was basically very little to learn. So instead what I did was went out and learned as much as I could about the traditional collectibles industry and the art world, and essentially the predecessors that had come before NFTs. And then a lot of that education actually drove the decisions that we made, and some of the most successful decisions as well. For example, when we in 2019 we started doing the Nifty Gateway drops, and at that time, basically all art NFTs were sold in open minting platforms. So instead of selling something during an event, people would artists would just mint an NFT, list it for sale, or start an auction for it, and then over time it would accumulate bids. But we basically learned about a lot of other collectibles industries. What we saw is over and over again, you have events that drive marketing as a sales tactic. Whether it's the Sotheby's Thursday evening sale or the Supreme drops, and we said, okay, well, we said we need to bring that dynamic to NFTs, and so that was the original reason that we decided to try doing the drops. And now drops are this huge thing that have like basically power almost every NFT sale. But back then it just wasn't really very common. So yeah, I'd say those are my strengths.
And what are your weakness? What are your weak points?
Oh boy. I mean, I think the level of like programming that we're doing is definitely beyond me now. Like I said,
Right.
I don't do any more programming. Um, it's all professionals now, and I was always really more of a hacker than a programmer. Like a lot of a lot of the stuff I built has ended up causing problems down the line because I was like,
Right.
we just got to get it. We just got to get a V1 out there. And then yeah, I mean, I think it's just really hard to like strategy is really hard too. I'm still learning a lot about strategy. The best way to pick which new products you're going to build, the best way to develop those new products, and like the best way to launch new products into the market. That stuff is really hard. I think you as a company you get one successful product usually, and that's what establishes you. But then if you
Yeah.
want to keep growing, you got to launch other successful products, and I think that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do best right now.
Interesting. Do you see all of the other marketplaces like OpenSea or Zuck that says, all right, on Instagram we'll do stuff, or whoever is, do you see them as competitors, or they are intrinsically different from what you do? What do you think?
I think you know I think yes, definitely we are competitors, but we're also different. The comparison in my mind is social media apps. It's like Snapchat and Facebook are competitors. The products are very different. People are using Snapchat for very different reasons than they're using Facebook, and the market is big enough essentially for Snapchat and Facebook to exist, and also Twitter, and also Instagram, and also TikTok. Like TikTok can come out of nowhere and be like, hey, we have
Mm.
this whole new formula that no one's thought of that allows us to totally take over the market. So that's kind of the way I think about NFTs. Cryptocurrency exchanges are extremely similar to each other. If you want to go buy Bitcoin, there's now 30 places that you can go do it. If you want to be an NFT collector, Nifty Gateway offers a different experience than anywhere else, at least on the primary market. And that experience is only going to get more different as we develop more features. You know, the the NFT secondary marketplaces are, I guess, pretty similar, where it's all the same content, it's all the same projects that you can trade on the secondary market. So
Yeah.
I kind of think it's somewhere in between social media apps where you can have totally different products that attract and retain users for totally different reasons, and then crypto exchanges, which basically offer a commoditized product, and it's tough to figure out what to compete on.
I see. I see. One friend of mine the other day who was going to launch an NFT collection, very well-known figure. He called me and said, look, my lawyers said, we have a problem here. And I say, what's the problem? Well, we will sell NFTs. They will be bought by anonymous wallets. And then for the Italian money laundering regulation, this is absolutely legal, because you have to say, look, I got this money from Duncan in New York, and you need those data. And this is one example. And then we went through accounting. You get money in ETH. Is it capital gain? Yes, no. When do you calculate the loss? I mean, it's like in some countries like Italy, but also here in UK, is not easy at all. So there are a lot of gray areas, and you don't understand exactly what to do. What's the situation that you see in US in this moment? But since Nifty is worldwide, where are we with this regulatory framework?
Yeah, well, we see a lot of partners who specifically want to use Nifty Gateway because we can accept credit cards for NFTs and transact only in fiat currency.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, yeah, corporate partners especially. I mean, some corporate partners are like, they can't even hold cryptocurrency. Like, they can't even own cryptocurrency or hold it in a wallet that they control. So a lot of them will come to us and say, hey, we want to do NFTs, but essentially we need the Nifty Gateway product because we can't do it in a, we can only sell them for fiat currency. So you're definitely right that a lot of people feel that way. As far as the regulatory, it's really a tough question, and I'm not sure how it will play out. I think every year I spend in crypto, you see a company doing something, and you sort of think to yourself, wow, there's no way that can pass muster. But then the company just keeps operating, and you're kind of like, wait a second, I don't even get how they're doing that. Like, how is this legal? And that cycle just repeats itself for me every single year, where every single year I'm like, I can't believe, how is this company doing this? But they just keep going. So I think NFTs are kind of in this weird place where, compared to the rest of cryptocurrency, I feel like if I were a regulator, NFTs would not be the first thing that I was going after. Honestly, like, that would not be my primary concern. Seems to me like there's many other things in crypto that would be a higher priority. But yeah, I think it'll play out basically on a 5 to 10 year time frame. And then
Got it.
another really like interesting factor of this, which I didn't really appreciate, or perhaps I have a unique perspective on because of Nifty Gateway accepting credit cards, is a lot of the framework where regulations get enforced is actually through the financial networks and through the banking system. So, if you're a company and you're trying to do something that is illegal, like your bank and you're trying to accept credit card payments, like, your credit card processor is going to be the first one to stop you. They're going to step in and be like, hey, this is illegal. You can't do this. We're not going to process your payments. And then after that, your bank is going to do the same thing. If you're a crypto company and you take crypto payments and you don't even have a bank account, no one is going to step in. No one is going to tell you this is illegal. Like, you don't. And if you never hire a lawyer at all, like, you might not even have a concept of what, if what you're doing is illegal or not. So I think that's going to be an interesting challenge for the regulators to deal with, because they've essentially offloaded a lot of the compliance and making sure that businesses are acting legally to the banks and the payment processors, and they're not going to be able to do that if a company is crypto only.
How do you keep updated on all the news and tools and platforms? Because I go crazy. I have like a fiddly. I'm 50 years old this year, so Duncan, I'm officially old and a boomer. But so I use like RSS feed aggregator. I try to keep, of course, Twitter and everything. But it's really hard. And sometimes you see stuff. I don't know. I was checking this news while I was waiting for you, of this company. They got Alexis Ohanian round, I think 50 million, 60 million seed round. And they are putting chips on physical objects. So they want to transform any physical objects into an NFT, basically. That's the vision. But every day there is something. And some news are, I don't know, irrelevant. Some are very, very important, even if it's a tiny modification, is a tiny feature that can transform an entire market. What's your media diet? But where do you get your information?
I have a simple answer to this, which is
Right.
I've just given up trying.
Right.
And I gave up trying years ago after being in
Right.
crypto for a year and a half. And I think it's just impossible. And basically, I'll check Twitter a few times a day and maybe see like the top tweets. But other than that, I really just, yeah. And maybe I like the block and Decrypt. Those are both pretty good sources of crypto news. So occasionally I'll check that. But generally I just don't try it because I think it's just too much. It's too much information. It's unsustainable. I have enough going on in my life. And I think I think the pace of NFTs especially is just a symptom of how young the industry is. The physical art world does not move this quickly.
Right.
If you're trying to keep up with what's going on in the physical art world, it's a much slower pace. It's kind of a relaxed hobby, whereas NFTs are this like super high energy, frenetic, like overwhelming hobby. So I just don't try it. Simple. Yeah.
I love it. After this, I'll stop trying to stay updated completely. I love it. It would be so relaxing. That's fantastic. I never thought about it.
Yeah, you can read a book about like history or something. Discover some new interest with all the.
And do you read books or Netflix series or YouTube videos? I mean, what do you like to check to relax or get inspired?
I'm a really big fan. I do read a lot, and I read a lot of history, both of like normal history, like US history and biographies and stuff like that, but then also a lot of startup history and business history, because I think that this is one of the best ways to like help yourself as an entrepreneur. You By like reading through the history of what other companies have done before, it really helps you get ideas about what you should do. And you see, like, yeah, you see companies that maybe are in a similar situation to your company is in right now, and you see how they got out of it. And you get a sense of like, okay, this is what running a company on like over a 30-year time period actually looks like. I think that crypto right now is really just stuck. We're just locked into a short-term mindset where it's no one can think beyond like what's going to happen in the next 3 months. And I think it's unsustainable. I don't think that it can last forever. I think that there's a few crypto projects that have basically established their long-term value prop, like really just, Bitcoin and Ethereum have totally established their long-term value prop. Bitcoin is digital gold. Ethereum is this, first smart contract blockchain that has the best network effect. And like that 50 years from now, I think that's still going to be the case for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. But outside of that, I think there's very few crypto projects that have really figured out this is what we're going to do in the long term. And everyone is sort of really like leaning way too heavily on these short-term maneuvers. They're concerned about, okay, how do I get my token price to increase in the next 3 months, or like what news can we launch that will like pump our price up? And I think it's just unsustainable. Like, I think people need to think a lot more about this long-term narrative. And reading history is the best way to do that. Crypto at some point, I think about this all the time where, when I'm just walking down on the street in New York and I pass by people and I think like, wow, how would their life be different if crypto just went away today? And I think kind of the sad reality is like, there's really not that many people whose life would be different if crypto went away today. I think a lot of the artists who release art on Nifty Gateway and then on other platforms, they would lose a major creative medium. Obviously the people who are invested in cryptocurrency as a store of value, it'd be bad for them. But overall, I mean, compared to the internet, like think about what would happen if the internet went away. It would be catastrophic. So I think ultimately, we need to, as an industry, we need to think about like, how do we get to a place where crypto is actually running important world infrastructure, and like what is the path to get there? And yeah, I just worry that short-term thinking can be detrimental to that goal.
I totally agree. I have some people on my Discord that every day ask me about floor price of my NFT, and I always ask the same question. If you buy, like something important, a house, I don't know, do you check the price every day? I mean, if I launch a startup, do you ask me every day, oh, but are we doing like $100 million revenues? Give me some time. We have to build the project. It takes time. So it's not, I think the impact is very negative also on users' mentality, and there is a lot of trading mentality among users that are not traders. It's not their job, but they are sort of educated in that way, and it doesn't help, probably.
Totally. And the problem with, if everything is built on speculation, then you can get this effect where everything just goes down as quickly as it goes up, which like it leads to like so much of the crazy volatility that we see in crypto, in NFTs as well. And I think I think that'll be the mission of the industry over the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's normal, and like the early internet was also crazy speculative. So I don't think it's unexpected, but I do think, eventually the internet companies shifted from being these like very speculative bets to things that were actually providing value in people's lives. And some crypto projects are, but just not the very many, like not a very large percentage of crypto projects are.
Yeah. I would say also the beginning of the internet. I mean, I was there because, as I told you, I'm old. I remember I was working in a lawyer office, and a salesperson came for the first time to pitch an email. They say, look, you could use an email now in the office. And I still remember my lawyer said, we have a fax. We don't have time to lose here. What can I do with an email? We have a fax. And I say, yes, of course, we have a fax machine. And in that moment, if you didn't use the email, was not a problem. Then when the network effect kicked in, if you turn off the email, everything stops. So probably it's the same now. I can imagine. Imagine,
Totally.
Duncan, if I come to New York tomorrow morning, and I knock at your door and I say, hey, Duncan, is Monty here? And you say, what the hell are you doing? Say, I want to follow you for one day. I want to see a day of Duncan behind the scenes. How is your day structured? Take me behind the scenes and tell me more or less how your day works.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. Well, I generally I tend to stay up pretty late and
Right.
sleep in, so that's just my habit, I guess. So are you you're following me at the start of the day?
Well, I start,
Yeah.
you tell me, come at this time. But if you say I wake up at 11 o'clock, I think, wow, that's a bit late. But okay, I'll come when
No,
you wake up. What time do you
no,
wake up?
I usually wake up at like 8:30 or 9, not
All
11
right.
o'clock.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Um,
And you don't have children or
no, I don't. No,
okay.
no children. I live with my girlfriend though, so
Okay. Got it.
um,
Okay. So
yeah,
8:39.
yeah. The first thing I usually do is check Slack, and then I check the Nifty Gateway sales to see how we're doing. Um, and then after that, I'll make coffee, and I'll get like something quick to eat. So usually just like a little yogurt. And then most days I just work from home.
Right.
Usually what I'll do is I'll like think about, I'll try and drive forward the stuff that I'm working on. So if it's a product initiative, I'll be like, how can we do this better? Um, I'll try and ask the team about, I'll point out small issues and be like, hey, how can we rethink this? Like, how can we improve this? Like, what are we doing here? What should we be focusing on? And then I usually try and spend a little bit of time thinking bigger picture as well. My
Mm.
goal, I try and minimize meetings as much as I can personally. I think, I guess maybe like some people like to have a lot of meetings, but I just like to have a lot of time to think. That's my strategy. So I try and spend as much time thinking as possible. And then, yeah, I try and absorb information that helps me get me in the right mindset. So usually I'll try and spend some time reading about a, like business history or something else, and or like listening to some news podcasts that are like have the take on the issues of the day. And then I usually work uh, until I eat dinner, and then I usually work more after that. So honestly, it's a pretty boring life because I basically just wake
Oh,
up, start working. Occasionally, I'll eat meals in between, and then I just work until I fall asleep. And I basically just do that every day. I guess that's what life as a startup founder is.
it is. It is. Do you do any work workout or some breathing technique or cold shower, or did you do anything like that, or just work, work, work?
No, yeah, definitely. I think that's really important. I actually think um, how good I think that relaxing is a skill that every startup founder should cultivate, and I think that how good you are at relaxing has a really material impact on your success because basically like being in a startup, it just creates this brain fog. There's so much
Yeah,
anxiety. There's so many things that you're worried about that unless you can figure out a really good way to relax and cut through the noise, you're just not going to think clearly and you're not going to make good decisions. So I try and cultivate a relaxation practice. Working out is a good way to do that. I love to go to the park and read. As long as my relaxation reading, I try and read something totally different, like because if you read books that are too similar to what you're currently working on, then like it's just causes more anxiety. So
right.
like I
Yeah.
try and have a set of books that I read that are totally unrelated.
Interesting. Very interesting. Excellent. Duncan, final topic. I have 3 minutes. Metaverse is only metaverse. Everyone talking about metaverse, but then every time I try to use a metaverse, I'm always a bit disappointed, to be honest. What's your take there? I mean, is Nifty doing something there that you think is a different thing? What's your vision there?
Look, I mean, I think it's kind of the meme of the moment. Um, I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like this very short-term thinking where people are like, okay, what are these NFTs are going to do? And an easy answer is like, oh, we're launching a metaverse, and like that's what the NFTs are going to do. You're going to be able to use the NFTs inside of our metaverse. Um, but building a metaverse, I mean, I don't know what kind of metrics people are looking at for success, but it's really, really hard to build a metaverse. I mean, it's one of the most difficult things to build. There's really only a few successful
Yeah.
metaverses out there right now. And you look at the market cap of some crypto projects that are the value of the crypto project is built on the expectation for their future metaverse. Like ApeCoin, for example, I think their fully diluted market cap is like 16 or 20 billion. And so much of that is like we're going to build this coin is going to be the default in our metaverse that we're building. And then you look at Roblox. Roblox has 41 million daily active users using their metaverse, and their market cap is basically the same as ApeCoin. And it's like it's really crazy. I mean, like that really puts it in perspective to me. And Roblox has been doing this for like 20 years. I don't know how long, but it's very,
Yeah.
very difficult to like
Yeah.
to really get a metaverse where people spend time and like actually hang out. I think is an incredibly difficult task. So I think people might be underestimating the difficulty of building something like that. If you just look at how few successful metaverses there have been. So yeah, I really hate Facebook's metaverse. I think it's total bullshit. I mean, it's just like so they're just so evil and like uh yeah, I mean, I was at a soccer game the other day,
Right.
and like everywhere everywhere you go to buy beer, it's like each beer is $20, and the line is like takes 30 minutes or whatever. And I'm like, this is what Facebook's metaverse would be. This like totally controlled environment where everything is way too expensive because you have this like evil overlord just extracting value, as opposed to like a true open metaverse, which would be like a real like if the sports stadium just like let anyone sell drinks, there wouldn't be a line. Like the free market would supply, and like the individual vendors would be much better off. So that's kind of the way I think about Facebook's metaverse. Unfortunately, I mean, I think they might be successful in it, which I think would be very bad for like the small business owners of the future, which are like really the creators, in my opinion, are sort of like the small business owners of the future, where like you're an independent artist, you make your money selling your art online, like you're a creator. Unfortunately, I
Right.
think there is a chance that Facebook ends up taking a 50% cut of like the small business economy of the future, which would be really bad. But I don't know. They have
Absolutely.
a big user base. So
Yeah. I mean, Google is already taking like 47% on AdWords for YouTubers when you create content.
It's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are just like pure. I also, so I mentioned I read a lot of history. I've been reading a lot of colonial history, and like the history of the South American colonies, and they're basically those were like extraction societies where Spain ran these colonies where people there worked in the colonies, they mined gold and silver, and they shipped it back to Spain, and they didn't get to keep the proceeds. They didn't have any sort of rights. It only existed to enrich the mother country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh, that's kind of what YouTube is right now, right? Like these creators are just like mining these virtual, they're creating content, and then all the money just goes back to Google. And it's like, yeah. Anyway, I mean, you saw how it turned out for those
Yeah.
colonial masters. I predict like the future of the internet will be something similar, where creators have this is their livelihood, So anyway, maybe that's a bit of a dramatic example,
but it's interesting. Duncan, thank you so much. And it was a big pleasure to have this chat with you. Good luck for Nifty, for everything. And let's keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Monty. Thanks for having me.
Bye.